Welcome to this prediction and analysis of the murder of George Floyd trial. This is a huge case. This may be the biggest criminal trial in history in terms of media coverage, where people are following this on a global scale. I want to start off by commenting about the opening statement by the prosecution. I mean, what the heck is this guy talking about? I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was saying that this man abused his badge and he was trying to exonerate the Minneapolis Police Department. I mean, he actually said, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that they do a fantastic job. I mean, really? A fantastic job? They do a terrible job. They have done a terrible job. I mean, look what just happened here. This just wasn't one cop. It was 4 of them. So you mean to tell me, oh, it's just 4? Not 1, 2, 3, but 4, right? But the rest of the cops there are great. They do their job. Really? 4 of them on the same scene during the same time that were violating this man's rights as he was being choked to death. And you have to understand something. This is important. Why? This prosecutor should have never said that. Because this whole thing started not at the hands of the defendant. See, that's what you have to keep in mind in this case. This thing started when he wasn't even on the scene yet. It was a massive escalation by police, unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, this guy was being accused allegedly of passing a fake $20 bill, even after he left the store. What a store is supposed to do is, when they get a large bill, they generally check it on the spot. If there's something wrong with it, they'll give it back to the customer and say, this is no good. Now, it's likely the customer didn't even know about it. Somebody could have given it to him. It's in circulation. But they walked out of the store and told him that he has to pay for the merchandise after he left the store. And what do you expect him to say? Maybe he didn't know about the bill. He's like, no, I'm not going to pay for it. I mean, I left the store already. It doesn't make any sense. There's no proof that he actually passed that bill. Ordinarily, what the police should do is just go there, investigate the matter. If someone is making an accusation, they have to provide proof of that accusation. That's not what happened here. So this was a massive escalation. Rather than do that, what did they do? They had guns in his face. They're threatening him with deadly force over something like this, over an accusation of a $20 fake bill. To put guns in this man's face? This is a massive escalation here. This started the whole thing. This is what started the problem. When you have police escalating, it doesn't end well. Look what happened in the Rayshard Brooks case. It should have never gotten to that point. The guy was sleeping in his car. He had something to drink beforehand. I mean, he wasn't stopped as he was driving under the influence. And there was a massive escalation. Look what happened. It was a disaster. That cop should have left well enough alone. Let him sleep it off. Oh, but he can't do that. They have to escalate. They have to escalate. Why? Why do they have to do this? That's what happened right here. Fantastic job. Who is he working for? Is he working for the defense? That helps the defense. It's ridiculous. He's saying this in front of the jury. Oh, these are good people. They serve their community. No, they don't. That's the problem here. He has to paint the picture for the jury to see that this is a systematic problem in this department. Because keep in mind, the other cops involved here, especially the ones that escalated this situation and started this whole thing, are going to be on trial this summer. And the jury probably knows about that already. It's ridiculous. Why would you say something like that? Now, as far as the defense is concerned, here's the bottom line. This guy's not getting off. I can tell you that right now. And I'm going to go through why I think he's not going to get off. You really have to look at these particular cases, and there are a lot of them, where police have killed minorities. And the cases like Ferguson, Baltimore, New York, and Kentucky, and Texas, Cleveland, these cases, there's a trend here, okay? You basically see a situation where taxpayers have to pay for these police departments. I mean, this is all taxpayer money. They pay to have police, right? Now what they do is, they screw up. They end up taking someone's life, right? And then what happens is you have these city councils that give the families these massive settlements, right? They don't hold themselves criminally liable. The cops walk, and the taxpayer is on the hook for it, and they have no say in the matter. So they steal your money the first time when they have to pay for these police. Then they steal your money again when these police screw up. They don't hold themselves criminally liable, and that's the trend that you have here. Now it's the same thing. This guy got the biggest settlement ever. I mean, if you're going to have a criminal case, you have to fight the case. Fight the case. Don't turn it into a civil matter and then not hold themselves liable. This is the problem here. If you have a case, fight the case. Now, as far as the defense is concerned, they're making a huge blunder here. They're actually trying to attack the heroes and turn them into the villains. They're trying to say that they distracted this cop. Distract him with what? I mean, he was slowly choking this man to death. They had the position on before the people were starting to assemble. There was no one there at the beginning. He never let go. There was no distraction here. I mean, that's like saying somebody is trying to assault somebody, and then there's somebody who's trying to save that man from being assaulted. And in the process of trying to save this man from being assaulted, he gets assaulted anyway, right? And he says, well, this guy distracted me from assaulting him. What did those bystanders do that could have changed anything besides to try to help this man and save his life? And that's another thing about police. They should be trained that if you have bystanders that are trying to de-escalate, work with those bystanders. Especially if one of them is a firefighter. She could have administered aid, but he tells her, go on the sidewalk. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What a joke. This police department is a joke. Fantastic job. I'm going to have the chief. He's going to be here. He's going to testify. Why does that chief still have a job? That's my question. What an outrage. And then you have this 911 dispatcher. He comes with a uniform. It's like she's someone important, a 911 operator. I should come into the courtroom with my t-shirt that says, I'm not impressed. The problem I have is that she actually had a video of what was going on. She saw what was going on. Her job is to actually contact the sergeant if she sees something that's disturbing. And boy, was there something disturbing here. A bunch of cops laying on a man for a very long period of time. She saw something was wrong. She calls the sergeant like she's having a cup of tea with him. They're having like a casual conversation. She even giggled a little bit on the phone. It sounded like it. It just didn't sound urgent enough. She should have spoke to him on the phone and said, look, this man's life could be at risk. You have to get over there ASAP. This is an extreme emergency situation. But instead it's like, oh, did you hear anything? Oh, I didn't hear anything. I'll go over there, something like that. Such a casual conversation. Where's the urgency in the matter? Maybe somebody could have gotten there and changed something. She did a terrible job. Ooh, it's out of the scope of my job. Out of the scope of your job. You're a public servant. You work for us. What do we pay you for? What a disgrace. As far as the jurors are concerned, I think the defense made a mistake. The jury pool is a pretty good mix, I would say. If they're looking to get a mix of different people of different ages and backgrounds, the problem is there's just way too many women on the jury. And you know what they say about women on the jury. They're going to tell you this, a defense lawyer especially. They're too emotional. They let their emotions get in the way of their judgment. And you don't want that, especially in a criminal case, in the mother of all emotional cases. I mean, look what you have here. You have a situation of a man, face value. You even heard that child, that 9-year-old kid. You know, you could just see it without knowing anything else in this case, face value. It looks like a man is being slowly tortured to death. He's begging for his life. He's calling out for his mother. I mean, it's pitiful. It's hard to watch even for a guy. I can imagine the women on this jury watching, and they're bawling. They're crying their eyes out. Maybe some of them can't even look at it. Maybe they're looking away from it. They have to watch this stuff. I mean, to bring so many women on a jury in the most emotional case imaginable. Women are very emotional, and you bring them to a case which is the most emotional case imaginable. They have to watch this footage from all kinds of different angles, from a panoramic view that the city has, the body cam footage, the bystander footage that they had from different angles over and over and over again. It's better to take a man who may appear to be somewhat biased than put women on the jury. I mean, you could have some, but not 9 of them. I don't know how many of them are alternates or on the jury itself, but that's way too many women. So they made a mistake with that. And then the other mistake, of course, is, and this is a huge mistake, a huge blunder, is to try to attack the heroes, which are the bystanders. They're trying to turn the heroes into the villains. That they distracted them, really. Distractions are good when you try to save someone's life. Jury's going to look at this and they're going to get angry. They're going to, what the heck is this? They're trying to make these bystanders, basically a child and a few people holding up a cell phone, being a hostile, growing crowd. Yeah. The jury's like, huh? That's not what we're looking at right here. So this is not going to work out. The defense is in a huge amount of trouble. The only thing they have, and they should stick to this, stop attacking the people that are the heroes. It's just going to anger the jury. What they have to do is they have to stick to their main claim that he was overdosing on drugs. It was the drugs that killed him. It was in his system. It was on the medical examiner's report, and that he was resisting arrest. And the police had to put him in that position to begin with because he was resisting. And the reality was he was resisting. And the defense did a good job establishing that. He showed the squad car going back and forth, especially when he interviewed that operator, and you can clearly see he was resisting. He didn't want to be in there. So based on that, they had to continue with their restraint techniques that they were using. And then they can say what finally did him in was the fact that he was overdosing on drugs. There was something in his mouth at the time, so he was even taking drugs at the time. Right? However, there's a problem with this. The huge problem is that their own medical examiner did not rule this drug overdose. They ruled it a homicide. So if you say beyond a reasonable doubt, well, there's no reasonable doubt anymore. Their own medical examiner said it was a homicide. So even if you think drugs may have contributed to his death, part of the contribution is the fact that he had a knee on his neck. And the jury has to consider that. And if they have to consider that, then it's murder. And that's a huge problem for the defense. And that's why this is like Pickett's charge. It's just a desperate endeavor to try to demonize someone else, to try to make someone else look bad, right? And try to put the blame on someone else. To say that he may have been trying to help this guy, but it doesn't make sense. It just makes it worse for them. And I think the defense knows that there's no chance they're going to get an acquittal here. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the road to a hung jury. The road to a hung jury. That's why they tried to get as many Caucasian people on the jury, because they know they just need one juror out of those 12. Just one. I mean, it's still going to be very hard because this case is just so overwhelming. The evidence is so overwhelming. It's kind of interesting how they keep interviewing these witnesses, which are just corroborating the video anyway. I mean, it's just amazing how you have the justice system in 2021 where there are so many cameras around that it kind of changes the dynamic of the criminal justice system itself, because when you have video, you really don't need the witness's testimony. A lot of this is a waste of time, especially they put that woman on the stand, that witness who worked at the Speedway. I mean, her testimony was just, wasn't useful. Most of the things she couldn't remember. She took out her phone. All you got to do is watch it. It was a waste of time. Most of the witnesses' testimonies were a waste of time. You could just watch and see what's going on for yourself. The jury has to decide. I mean, they're asking them what happened, and some of them are saying, I don't remember. Well, it's been already 10 months since this happened. Just watch the video. A witness said himself, watch the video. You can see it. It's interesting because, usually in the old days, when the video wasn't around, witnesses have to corroborate other witnesses. Now, the video footage is corroborating all the video footage. It's like one camera is going to show the same thing from a different angle. Cameras tell the truth. Witnesses don't. Just watch the video. That's all you have to do. You're trying to make witnesses look like they're hostile. I mean, all the jury has to do is just watch and look. Do you consider them hostile? You see what's going on from the beginning to end. Are these hostile people? Are these bystanders hostile? You can make your own decision by watching it. So the road is to a hung jury. And being the fact that you have some Caucasians that are on the jury, it is possible that one of these jurors maybe had an encounter and they were a victim of, let's say, a black crime. Somebody who was black that committed a crime. Because I have to say this, most of the crimes being committed are by blacks. I mean, they make up a small percentage of the population, and most of the criminals proportionally are committed by them. So if it's possible that one of them was a victim of a crime and they look at the police as their protectors, they're going to say, well, this guy, he may have been a troublemaker, he has a criminal past. I think they might allow some of his past to come into this trial, which is not good for the prosecution. They can say, look, this guy had a criminal past, he had a drug addiction, and they're going to paint him out to be a bad guy. And they can imagine this guy as basically victimizing them. And it's just possible you could have one juror that just might say, this guy was no good, maybe it was drugs too that did him in, I'm going to vote not guilty. And that's all you need is just one juror. And a hung jury will be a disaster for the prosecution. Because once you get a hung jury, then you have to play ball with the defense. They're going to want a much, much lesser plea. There's tremendous pressure going on for the prosecution to get a conviction here, okay? The media, people around the world, politically, they want a conviction. There's a lot of pressure here. So that's the reality. So I'm going to make a prediction. The evidence is just too overwhelming. It's very emotional. There's a lot of women on the jury. They're going to be watching this. He is going to get convicted. What he will get convicted with, that's very interesting. I think they will get him on second-degree murder. I think that it's just overwhelming evidence. If not second-degree, third-degree murder. The question is, what will the judge give him? You see, judges wield tremendous power. And judges have a poor record of giving police maximum sentences. Keep in mind, these people all work for each other, which is why it would have been a good idea for the prosecution to agree to change the venue of this case, because it's likely that these cops, the judges, these people work together. They maybe know each other, which is not good. That may be a conflict of interest. Maybe a change of venue, even to a different state, would have been a good idea. So it just makes you wonder what kind of sentence that judge is going to give him. I mean, between the minimum and maximum, that's a long period of time. So this is a very interesting case. So I'd like to know what you think about this case. Please leave your comments, please subscribe, please like up this video, and thank you for tuning in.